We want to turn now to national security analyst KT McFarland. She works, of course, for Fox News, host of Fox News DEFCON's DEFCON 3 show, 1 p.m. Wednesdays at live.foxnews.com, and a person who knows a lot of things about stuff that we need to talk about right now. I want to talk, if I could, KT, starting off this morning with a discussion of what's going on with relation to information about Benghazi, because we got John Brennan, who wants to be the CIA director. A couple people up on Capitol Hill, Senator McCain notably, says, I'm not going to go for this guy if we don't hear more about what really happened in Benghazi. So they got some documents up on Capitol Hill, and we're starting to hear details of it. The first thing we found out is that someone in the federal agency press shop took out the word Al-Qaeda in the early discussions, and that Libya, this is the most amazing part, Libya sent warnings in the days leading up to the attack that specifically mention a possible attack on the U.S. compound in Benghazi, and yet we didn't do a thing to prepare.
Yeah. You know, I had that job at the Pentagon. I was Deputy Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs in the Reagan administration. I've got to tell you, press people, you know, the press spokesman, they don't write those talking points in a vacuum. So if they're doing things like exiting out words like Al-Qaeda or advance notice, that's not because somebody in the press shop decided, well, let's make ourselves look good, let's spin this a little better. That's because they've talked to somebody higher up and gotten permission, because that's basically a lie. I mean, that's a cover-up, that's a lie. That's not just a little bit of spin control on the edges. That goes to the fundamental questions that were being asked. So I don't think that's the end of it. But that being said, guys, I don't think that's the important story here. The important thing is not, look, they lied, they covered up, but they got away with it because the mainstream media or the government-controlled media, whatever you want to call it, isn't about to take this on as a story. The bigger thing, though, is why have we not gotten the people responsible for Benghazi? Why have we not gone after the terrorists that we know did this? And then there's even a bigger story after that, which is that the entire Middle East policy is a failure. You know, the Arab Spring 2 years ago, happy talk, it's all going to be great, democracy, breaking out from the Atlantic Ocean all the way through the Persian Gulf. That's not what's happened. Libya is about to collapse economically. Egypt is. Libya is a lawless state, can't even govern itself. Syria, we've just heard how that's going from bad to much worse, and Iran's on the brink of nuclear weapons. So tell me where the good news is here.
Well, and given that you mentioned Syria as a lawless state, the rebels now have formed an exile government, and they claim that they're waiting for aid from the United States. Secretary of State Kerry says that we're not planning to arm the Syrian rebels at the moment, which was an interesting turn of phrase. Are we and should we be giving them any kind of assistance, including arms?
Well, General Mattis, who's the commander of Central Command, the military guy, the Marine who's in charge of U.S. forces in the region, said at this point, we're not sure, we don't know enough about who the rebels are to know who to arm, and what we don't want to, first do no harm. Don't give weapons to people who might then turn and use them against you or to make things worse. The situation in Syria is going to go from really, really bad to a whole lot worse. Because it's not George Washington crossing the Delaware or Washington at Valley Forge. These rebels are a whole lot of different groups, including, and probably the predominant groups of them, are terror, Al-Qaeda affiliated, Iran affiliated. So it's not just how bad it is in Syria, but I think the violence spreads, the refugees, tens of thousands of refugees, hundreds of thousands of refugees have already crossed in to Lebanon and Jordan, and will those countries be destabilized next? I think it gets worse.
Hugo Chavez is dead.
Now that's the good news.
Well, does it give us an opportunity to do any kind of work with Venezuela now that we might have a new leader there? Well, we will have a new leader there.
Well, you have a temporary leader, and who knows if he's going to remain the leader.
Right.
But I've long thought that countries like Venezuela and Cuba, we should be there ready to pounce the minute the opportunity presents itself, because these guys do eventually die. And who's going to be in there first is going to be, especially in Cuba, is going to be the country that not only has economic prosperity because you're going to do a lot of development. In the case of Venezuela, they need a lot of, investment, not investment money, but investment in technology. And if we are the first people in there to help them, then I think it gives us a very good position, geopolitically and strategically and militarily and economically. So yes, I think it's a great opportunity, and I think we should be right there.
In the meantime, we were seeing people in the media, a couple of congressmen and Hollywood stars all mourning Hugo Chavez as if he was some great hero. Can you shed a little light on that?
Why they can all go to the funeral then.
You said this is good news. Why is, I mean, what was so bad about Hugo Chavez? Why are you so intolerant, KT McFarland?
Look, Hugo Chavez came in 1999 to a country where there was a democracy. It was a pretty ineffective democracy. And he basically said, I'm Robin Hood. I'm going to take all the great resources we have in this country, the oil, the uranium, and the gold, and I'm going to give it out to my supporters. And that's exactly what he did.
He also gave it to his own bank account.
Well, for sure. I mean, that goes.
He may be worth $2 billion upon his death.
It's going to be one heck of a funeral.
Well, maybe that's why Larry King yesterday said that Hugo Chavez was...
He was kind of guy who was larger than life. He was huggable.
He was huggable, KT.
I hadn't heard that.
Would you want to hug Hugo Chavez?
Oh, would you want to hug a porcupine? Look, he was a charismatic guy. I mean, a big figure, and he dominated. And the people in Venezuela are really tragically, they think his passing is a great tragedy. But the problem is that he didn't do two things. He didn't use the resources that the good Lord gave that country and develop them efficiently and for the long run better economic and well-being of the people. And then he also, he just didn't do a lot of things that he could have done for those people.
Right,
He's taken them what they should have lasted them for 100 years, and he handed it out, as goodies. And as a result of that, they're going to be in trouble going down the road.
But he's a socialist, so we love him. KT McFarland, days like this is why we love having you on a weekly basis. Thanks so much for joining us, as always.